o'clock, have a scheduled meeting, master plan review committee. Order.
Mr. Sandifer? Here. Mr. Johnson?
Here.
Myself, Ms. Petrie, here. Mr. Burns? Mr. Hess? Mr. Stephen Smith? Mr. Stephen Smith? No. Mr. Brian Clemens?
Present.
Mr. Steve Larkey? Mr. Julie Diason Norris? And Mr. Zach Thomas.
Yeah.
Oh. I just had it.
Test 1, 2. Okay, we're in business. Okay, we've had the call to order, roll call. We'll open up with a short word of prayer. Father God, we're all gathered here tonight safe and sound. There's people in Texas that aren't quite so safe and sound, even our members, Lord. Ask that you look over them, protect them, and help them. And Father, tonight we're going to attempt to do the people's business to the best of our ability, and we ask that you give us wisdom. Let us all exercise the best wisdom that you can give us and show us where we lack. Ask it all in Jesus' name. Amen.
United States of America, and to the republic for which is one nation, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the first item on the agenda is approval of the June minutes. Anybody had an opportunity to look at them?
I move that they be accepted.
Yeah. Second.
Looked at them, and I think
I did.
I second that motion.
Right. And call the vote.
Mr. Sandifer?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Petrie, myself, yes. Mr. Burns? Mr. Hess?
Yes.
Mr. Smith? Mr. Clemens?
Yes.
Mr. Larkey?
Yes.
Mr. Zach? Nope. All yeas?
All right. The minutes are approved. Next item on the agenda, the old business, state highway setbacks. Mr. Sandifer, I believe you have information for us.
Yeah, not a whole lot. Basically, there were some amendments made after the last council meeting, and they asked that we go back through it and try to work it up, review the changes, make any further changes, and whatnot. There was a lot of discussion at the last council meeting, and a lot of good points brought up. So I do think it needs some more work before it gets back to the council. The stuff I did have passed out what the changes are. The green, I believe, are the changes. I have not seen it until today, so I have a copy if y'all want.
Sorry, Gus. Well, I'm probably not doing a good job of getting in the microphone. I'm sorry.
If you'd like, I can paraphrase what's been changed, if you'd like. So going down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the fifth whereas, rather than it's emphasizing the smart future growth and development, it's crossing out anything about building development. Federal and state roads, it focuses only on Florida Boulevard. It emphasizes on the next one, whereas any building signage or structures that are located in the right-of-way boundaries before the adoption of this ordinance are hereby grandfathered in. So if you have something already there, if there's already development, it's already grandfathered in. The red is, he's added that in. The setback, so section 121, it talks about the building line setback requirements that are adjacent to state and federal highways. Let's see. The setback requirements stated herein apply to any side of the property facing a street or road for which a setback requirement is provided herein. It does not apply to Interstate 12. It emphasizes Florida Boulevard parish line to line. So I don't see where it's just any state highway. It's Florida. I'm sorry? It does? Okay, I'll get there in a second. So right now, it's stating just the Florida Boulevard. So no permanent structure, such as underground utilities and drainage. It may be used for parking, green areas, and access so long as visibility of motorists entering the highway is not blocked. The building line setbacks shall apply to all structures, including but not limited to duplexes. So I'm going to fast forward because that's stuff that's already been on there. So going to the next one, he emphasizes building line setbacks 21 from the side yard, 21 rear building line setbacks, and 41-foot front yard buildings. These requirements shall apply to the following existing roadways and any additional state or federal highways constructed in the parish. Oh, it says all state highways in Livingston Parish. Is there a reason that that one's blue and not green or red? Okay.
On Reef South Road,
Yeah, these are his amendments.
starting at where is the purpose of the ordinance is to, then it's in green line through. I don't know why. It's to reduce future right-of-way acquisition cost. Follow. Do not apply.
Yeah.
That's the whole purpose of the ordinance.
Well,
That's why way back.
That's the point.
2 or 3 years ago, when we was working on the one with Florida Boulevard only, that was after our meeting with Secretary Sean Wilson of DOTD, and he talked about quitting building highways, and we don't have to buy the building. So that was our original goal. I would ask that be if we're gonna go forward. Did he out or?
my understanding is these are all the edits that he made, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
we can put it. I would think we need full purpose.
Yeah, I agree with that. I second.
About this, what's the purpose of the ordinance?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, I think he's just looking for feedback for what he's done. For the public, what we had originally asked for was that the council would examine the master plan that was created 11 years ago and enact some ordinances that were consistent with that master plan, which at the time, there was exhaustive public hearings, many studies, and didn't really see a big issue, to be honest with you. I'm sure several of you like to speak. Do we have some public comment? Mr. Scott? Give us your name and address, please.
Also, having
Did you see battery?
Just push it in. There you go.
It'll take a few seconds for the light to come on. That's for the audio. That little button to the right at the bottom. Is push.
Gotta give it a minute.
Well, we can hear you.
Yeah. We can hear you. It's for the audio back there,
Yeah,
so
it's fine.
you can go ahead.
anyway, I don't think orders come along. That's going to take a lot of land. I may wait. When they buy it, value is what I was thinking about earlier. All state roads. Repairs.
That one red.
Yeah,
Oh,
there
good, thank you.
It would go red and go off, so I didn't know. Sorry.
Thank you.
So Mr. Harris's property is on the corner, and by these standards, you would be taking, it's about a 60-foot right-of-way right there, give or take a few feet. You would be taking almost all of his property from 4H Club Road and from Vincent Road. You'd leave him with a little bitty piece. And he's trying to sell it right now. And I imagine, I don't know what the price is, but let's say he's trying to get $1 million for it. This ordinance goes into effect, that land is worth nothing because you've just taken it from him. And I know you're not physically taking it, but you have taken and encumbered it where you can't build on it. That's going to happen all over the parish. So to blanket policy this with this ordinance is irresponsible, in my opinion. I would actually sit down and look at our major corridors, like 190, like part of Walker South, like Juban, a section of Juban, a few others. There's others. I mean, just off the top of my head, 16 is already super wide. It's been that way for 40 or 50 years. The state bought the right of way and stuff through there, so they had a lot of right of way already purchased. But I would look at your major corridors rather than just say every state highway in Livingston Parish is just going to fall under this. You go down to 16 and French Settlement and Marpole and all through the lower part of the parish, you have a lot of places that they're going to lose any rights to build anything. Some of it's their inherited land. It's all they have. And now they can't even build a house on it, a camp, nothing, much less a business. So there's consequences that immediately came to my mind, and I said, I got to say something. But at the same time, I'm in favor of doing it with great thought and great consideration around the parish. So that's all I have to say. I just wanted to bring that up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Scott. That's well said. Anybody else? Okay.
Lisa Cothran. Address is 32011 Tebow Plaza, Springfield, Louisiana. And I am a property owner. And I appreciate what the gentleman said. He made a lot of great points of consideration and consequences. But still, the fact remains that, and I say this, please understand that as when I'm stating this, I'm not stating this coming against anybody. I'm stating it as a fact. I'm stating that it is written that although you may think that you have authority to make these ordinances, you do not. You do not. There is nothing that supersedes the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of
If I
Louisiana.
may, for a moment, this body has zero legislative authority.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's it. This is a citizens committee.
Yeah, so I just, that's exactly what I'm trying to say is that we're up here saying, and like the gentleman said, there's a lot of people that are going to be affected if you do this. But actually, no one will be affected because there's nothing, if you're a property owner, there is nothing that can be done to your property without your will. You have all rights of your property, all rights. And I know that may, well, no, I'm not too sure about that. That's factual. You cannot touch someone's property. There's very, very strict situations of eminent domain on when a person's property can be taken. Very, very strict. And it cannot be for private use. It can't be for the fact of someone benefiting off of it in a private company. I just want to make sure that when you're making these, I realize that you don't have any legislative authority, just like the Parish Council does not have any legislative authority to do this. The legislation, anytime the legislation makes any kind of amendment or anything that goes against the Constitution, it's void, it's dead.
If I may answer that, the legislative authority to do zoning and regulations, things like that, were established in 1926 on the north edge of Ohio State on banks of Lake Erie. Supreme Court ruled Manus versus,
See, case
can't
law
remember the
doesn't
exact
matter.
case.
If
It is
you-
the Supreme Court.
Yes,
And that law is a law that has been built on zoning. And that's what will be followed. But once again, this is not the legislative body here. The council is. We tell the council basically what we think about the master plan. That's what we're trying to do.
Well,
That's all.
and that's respectfully, and that's what I'm letting you know, is that that the authority still belongs to the people. There's no change in whatever happened by the case law holds.
We're not claiming to be the authority here.
Yeah, but I'm just, when people are in this audience, they're unsure what's happening. They're unsure of what your power is here. They're unsure what your purpose is here. And so my purpose to come up here is not only to educate the board and the council, but also to educate the public, is when you do have a problem, when someone is coming after you for your property, there is nothing that supersedes your rights and the Constitution. Just like the Chevron cases the Supreme Court are now seeing all these things, all these entities that were created that have no authority, no power.
Well,
So,
if I could clarify your confusion, this is the Master Plan Review Committee.
yeah, I got
We
you.
are not a revised statute 33 commission.
I got
Okay?
that.
No legislative authority. All we're doing is giving the Planning Commission our opinions about the revisions needed in the master plan.
Right.
And in this case, we've asked the council to start enacting some of the provisions in the original master plan.
Right. And
And then they proceeded to write all of this.
right, right. And I there again, I respect what you're saying. I respect what you're saying to me, but the opinion, that would be like me having an opinion, having to form in a community, a committee, having an opinion about what time you're going to eat supper at your house. I don't have the authority to do that. It's your house. You make those decisions, not me. And so that's what I'm trying to make a statement of, is that we, the property owners, we make the decisions of what happens with our community. And like I said, no disrespect to anybody here, I'm just saying, that's the order of things. In our house, our property, we make the decisions. So I appreciate each one of you
Respectfully
serving.
disagree.
Yeah, well, and I respect each one of you serving, but like I said, it's kind of a waste. But so I just wanted to, on record, just state my opinion and the facts, not that it's written in the Constitution, not just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lisa.
Thank you. Hey, Gus?
So what is the actual footage setback?
Right now.
So everybody in the whole parish will know, what is the footage and measured from where?
Right now, it should be at,
talk-
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Talking about existing law or something?
Well, you have this, you have the state right-of-way that's already there and existing. From the back of the state right-of-way, how much of the people's land are y'all trying to take?
Zero.
We're not.
Footage. No,
That's
you're
already-
taking it because you're telling them they cannot build on it. And when they pay taxes, they mow, I'm speaking, they pay taxes.
Excuse me, sir, you're not going to sit there and instruct us when you're speaking, all right? I'll
Well, it was my
instruct you when
turn
it's
to
your turn.
speak, and I thought people
And
get
that
to
is
get up here
right
and
that
have
you're being
a
afforded,
speak.
but please do not correct us.
So, no, I'm not. I was just saying, I
Right.
was speaking. I would not interrupt you speaking. So, therefore, and I'm sorry, I'm going to have to stop for just a second. When people don't get their way, they try to interrupt people to break their train of thought, and that's very disrespectful. I'm just going to say that. Now, with this being said, I own property in Albany and various places that are on state highways that already have a DOT right-of-way that you can literally build 3 lanes just on my side, not on the other side. This property will never be more than, at best in 200 years from now, maybe a 4-lane highway, which the property is already there for. Okay? Now, let me ask you this. Again, can anybody answer me? From the back of the state right-of-way, how much back do y'all want to take people's property where they cannot build or do anything with?
Can I answer that? You can go ahead.
So just to interject, okay? So you're asking what we want to take. That's what this committee is for. It's not really what we're wanting to take. We're trying to take suggestions from y'all as well as each other.
And that's what I'm trying to point out, man.
To make sure that we have the best decision, and as well as what he had said, to make sure it's well informed. Because I agree with exactly, I can't remember, is it Mr. Seth? Is that right? Scott, I'm sorry. I agree 100% what you said. The information and the facts that we put forth and any suggestions should be backed up with facts and good research.
And where the problems are is in the municipalities, in the town of Walker, the town of Denham, and all these other places. That's where y'all have the issues of having to buy stuff. It ain't out in rural property on a state highway that's hunting land and different things like that. What y'all gonna do is gonna take 3/4 of an acre of land of mine.
Well, Gus, what I was trying to tell you earlier is that we're not making recommendations on what the setbacks will be. What we're doing is recommending that the council follows the master plan. We're the master
Okay.
plan review So if it's not in the
get that.
master
I understand
plan,
y'all's position, I'm just pointing out the
Yeah,
views.
we're not
But
writing it
can
in.
anybody answer me, what is the footage?
As it stands right now, as it was written, what went to the council was 71 feet from center line of the road,
71 feet, but.
from, to either side, from
But-
center line of the road. That's the answer I think you're
But the
asking
road is
for.
not always in the center of the right-of-way.
Right. Yeah, it was
So you could be
ignoring.
taking a lot more land from people on one side and nothing from the others,
That's correct.
you know?
I
And I
pointed
got
that
a
out and they
question.
brushed it aside, to be honest with you.
Was that?
I pointed that out and they brushed it aside. I wanted to measure from the center of the road because the road
Center
isn't
of the road
always
is
in the
wrong.
center of the right of way.
No, it's not.
No.
And I
Nope,
think that's one of the
incorrect.
changes here is that it's now center of the right of way. That was one of the new changes that's in here now.
And the only
I
way
don't
to
know which
get
one's
that is
better.
go to the back of the right-of-way mark. And then, so my question, from the back of the right-of-way markers, what's the footage that you want to where nobody can build or do anything? From the back of that right-of-way marker, the DOTD right-of-way marker.
I want to answer the question about back right away, how much setback. You live in Albany,
I have various lands all throughout the parish.
highway.
Yes, sir.
Probably something you don't know, most people don't know right now, unless you're a builder. On every state highway, this parish, there's a building line set back on the front, 25 feet. Say like Florida Boulevard is 100 feet wide, that's 25 on both sides. That's 150 feet. This ordinance is only asking for 142. But there is already...
We're still not answering the question.
Let me finish, please. Okay. Finish the thought. Florida Boulevard is 100 feet. So you already have a 25-foot if you build anything that's facing the highway. The problem lies is if you look at what brought a lot of this about in front of the Gator Millworks on Florida, this side of Juban, if you look directly across the street, there are two brand new homes built there 3 or 4 years ago, 6 foot. Now, if DOTD widened that road, they got to buy those houses, and I know they're probably $300,000 a piece. This ordinance, any ordinance that you do on building setback, is what we're trying to prevent people from building so close to the highway. But there is an ordinance already on the front, 25 foot. Now, it come out of the subdivision with improvement ordinance, and that's all the planning department has to go by. So to answer your question, there is already a setback on all state highways,
Exactly, but the road is not center.
everywhere in every state highway.
Now, I got a question, Mr. Burns. You have property on Juban Road, correct? Did you hold out and not get very well paid for your land?
I'm going to stop this one right here. You're not here to attack
public
people.
record.
Excuse me?
I don't know where you're going with that, but
Stop right now. We're not going to
What?
attack people here.
I'm not attacking, I'm asking a question about right-of-ways.
All right.
let me continue.
Let me go ahead and address the elephant in the room. This was inappropriate. If you want to address this, take it to the council, all right?
I'm just asking questions. It's a public record. People can find
I'm
this.
telling you, if you
People see
want to
this.
attack an individual on
I'm
this
not
board...
attacking. I'm pointing out that the people out here want to be paid. If y'all going to take their land, they want to be paid for their land. That's going to turn to nothing, to nothing.
Let me answer your question. I'd like to answer your question.
While we doing the setbacks, why don't we go ahead
Just a
and do...
moment.
I'm sorry.
He wanted to answer.
I wanted to answer his question if I could.
Go ahead.
When I bought my property there was no setbacks. There was no 25-foot setbacks. I bought that property in 1974. But when DOTD come through, they bought 30 feet from me. They paid me.
They paid you for it.
Paid me.
And yeah, and that's what I'm pointing at.
But
They
didn't
paid
take
you.
it. But they didn't take it.
They didn't take it. They paid you for it. And they paid you dearly. So
Sir, real quick, before you walk away, can you tell me your name, please, for the record?
Gus Holden,
Gus Holden. Okay, and your address?
20384 LA Trace.
Gus, I apologize, but I just don't think it is appropriate to attack individual members here.
Sir, I was not
No, I'm saying,
attacking.
if we
I'm
have-
pointing out that we all want to be paid for our land if y'all gonna make it useless. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, state law and federal law does require that to be done, right? And understand that.
But it goes by
And-
appraised value.
And it's called a taking.
But if you, 200 years from now, when they decide to ever use it, if they ever need it, where my property is, that's 200 years from now. I'm gonna be lost on that land, dead, gone. My children are probably gonna be dead and gone before they ever do that. And we have wasted our land that we could have used that time and got nothing for it because we couldn't build on it.
Well, Gus, let's continue the conversation. Let me give you a situation that I saw today. I was asked to take a look at a piece of property. The trailer had been placed literally this far from the roadway. Should that be permissible?
You got ordinances.
The trailer is literally this far
Is it
from the road,
25
the
foot from
pavement.
the-
Did it go 25 feet?
The edge of the trailer was placed this far from the pavement. Do you think that's a good idea?
No, I do not. But that is a right-of-way. There is setbacks already. On every parish road, there's already a setback in place.
Should those
That
people
you
be
have
paid
to
for
be-
those setbacks?
At wherever their setbacks are on that, we've done made, but this is just superseding and way taking too much property that's not needed at this time
I'm asking,
throughout the parish.
should the people be paid for that first setback that we've already got?
They already had the laws in place. These
over
laws,
10 years.
these laws have been in place.
So those people 10 years ago didn't deserve any money.
That, I don't know. That was then. This is, we're talking about today's thing. The laws that we have in place now.
You just talked about 200 years from now. I think we can talk
200
about
years, we're
2
talking in the
years ago.
future. We're not talking in the past, we're talking in the future. But when you just doing a blanket all over the whole parish for hunting land that you could drive for miles through and never see a house, I mean, come on.
Can you state your name and your address, please?
Wade Holden, 9160 Harris Road. The, you got a half-acre land in Livingston Parish. Out in rural, most people take and put a mobile home on it while they're building the house. You normally build your house in the center of your lot. So you would put a mobile home up front temporarily until you got your house built. That's been common practice in Livingston Parish forever. But I am done with this. This needs to be underneath the UDC. Nobody's thought about this. You've ended, we talk about the economic corridor. I've heard this for years. We're trying to kill every mom and pop business coming to Livingston Parish. We should be on a master plan. Hey, let's figure out how we can get these businesses to come to Livingston Parish. When they look at the council meetings and stuff from the previous whatever, it's a big joke to everybody outside of the parish. The people inside the parish trying to make something with the business can't get ahead because like he's trying to build his business offices and stuff. Fleet O'Brien's old auction got destroyed in 2016. That's a piece of property. There's another good example in District 5. This is outrageous. And I, just like Burns, I've got property. It's my retirement. I plan to do something with it. But most people, we were all told when I was growing up, invest in land. It'll be there. But when y'all make the land teetotally useless, y'all have just ruined everybody's investment and retirements. Not all of us invest in 401ks. So thank y'all.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. I want to thank each and one of you. I understand you guys are just citizens.
I'm sorry, can you state your name and your address? I'm
Caleb
sorry.
Atwell, 32695 Cypress Drive. I understand you guys are just citizens, probably don't get paid anything to sit up here and, listen to us. Could you clarify, so because, be honest, completely confused by this entire subject. When you increase a setback, is that, from, let's say, 100 feet to 142 feet, is that considered a takings? Like, do you get compensated at that point whenever you increase the setback?
No, it's legally not a taking. It's a restriction of use. Okay. I have a piece of property. Come on, guys. I have a piece of property that has a transmission line right away. It's 150 feet, 700 feet long. I can't build anything on it. I sure mow a lot of grass right there, I tell you what. but there's a very strong limit of what I can do there legally.
So people don't get compensated until DOTD or someone comes and buys the land? Is that how that works? But they're restricted from building, and they have to
Fence
maintain the
structures.
property.
Things like that.
Permanent structures.
The way it is now, 25 foot.
Well, no, I get it, but the way the public is viewing it is, right now it's 25 foot, and it sounds like we're trying to go from 25 foot to some other number, which I don't think I caught
Roads, but not all.
on some roads, but
Some
not.
roads, not Florida Boulevard, but on some roads, on other roads that's not 100 foot.
No, but didn't this recommendation that you guys are giving to the council, aren't we trying to do it across all state roads?
Well, that didn't fly, okay?
Okay.
This group has got a,
Still in here. Gerald, it's
group-
still in here.
no, this ordinance did not pass Thursday night. It was sent back to
But
us.
the rewrite still says all state highways in the
I know
parish.
it, but that ordinance that was presented to the council the other night did not fly in the council, so therefore it was sent back for reconsideration.
Right.
And,
And then the rewrite of it here, it still says that.
well, I don't
This isn't
think
a
most of
complete-
this ordinance will be ordinance in the end. I
complete
just, my
version.
personal opinion, it will be
On
rewritten
the second side.
a lot better if we decide to go forward. And if the council decides to go forward, it won't be like, it won't be all state highway.
Do we have any idea of what we're trying? Because I think that might be we've had a bit of
Well, I
a
can
little-
read to you
little
what the
contention.
intent was. It's page 58 of the comprehensive master plan. It says how much servitude width should be reserved. 60 feet up to 5 lanes of roadway or 4 lanes with a median. 16 feet to 5 foot, 7 foot shoulders. 30 feet, 2 15-foot swales and a 40-foot canal and storm drainage ways. It lists all of them. Initially, it recognized a servitude of 142 feet, which was
on just
state highways.
blanket state highway. And see, so I don't.
And it says this is based on preserving the potential for following roadway components. And now you listed the 5 lanes of roadway, shoulders, swales, servitude, sidewalks if desired, and 2 1-foot construction setbacks to the servitude line.
Now, does the parish? Like I said, I'm probably not as researched as I should be on this, but does the parish have an idea of where they expect growth to take place, like which specific areas?
That was done 11 years ago, and they're in the process of letting out quotes right now. I believe next Monday or Tuesday, they'll be looking at quotes from various companies to update this document.
So it seems to me that if I was up there and it was my job to give a recommendation about an ordinance, I would want an updated master plan so that I could know where we expect the parish to grow. And then I would I wouldn't do just a blanket, we're going to do a big giant setback across all state highways. I would try to limit the setbacks where we know that growth is going to take place, because you are restricting, you're not taking land, but you're restricting the use of the property. And if I'm going to tell someone that I'm going to restrict their use, then I want to be able to give them a very clear, I want to give them a defined answer. Hey, we're restricting property because the master plan shows that your area 10, 15, 20 years from now, it's going to grow. And if we don't take your property, you're going to be sitting in traffic, right? So then you can tell these residents, these people that are coming in here saying, why are you taking my land? Why are you restricting your use? Then you can give them the why you're doing that. But it just seems like a blanket, I'm going to take everything in which is the way it's written now, and y'all hopefully will
It's not
reconsider.
gonna wind up- the ordinance that, I'll repeat myself, the ordinance that was presented to the council last week, it won't look like this. It won't be all state highways.
Okay.
It'll be selected highways in the economic growth corridor, probably.
I mean, that makes sense. So we're not making any final decisions tonight. Y'all are just,
Not only that, when this all started, we hadn't yet begun the process of hiring a contractor to get the consulting for us.
okay.
So they're probably not even going to finish this until we get all the information from the consultant we're going to select next week.
Okay. So when do you think, so just so, because we got people who are along state highways, they know that, how can we as the general public, follow along and just follow through this whole process?
There will be numerous public hearings involved in the process with the consultant.
I appreciate
But the
it.
consultants will be scored next week. I don't know when the contract will be let out. My guess is this isn't going
Talking
to,
about the ordinance on road setbacks, I think is what
Yeah.
he's talking about.
I don't think they're going to finish it.
Come to these hearings.
Well, just people, obviously, like I said,
Come
you
to
guys,
these hearings and
These
voice your
hearings?
opinion,
Yeah.
and then you go before the council and voice your opinion, and come to the public hearing, come to the meeting.
thank you. I appreciate it, Mr. Burns. Y'all have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Scott Jones again. Mr. Mangus and I were just looking at this, and if you look on the back page where it talks about 21-foot side setback, 21-foot rear, then 41-foot front yard building line setback, then you skip down to 142 feet right away, but it says in total 142 foot as per Livingston Parish Comprehensive Master Plan. The question he and I have is the intent for that to be 41 feet additional on each side to the 142 feet, or is it 142 feet all encompassing? Because
142
that's
all
very
encompassing.
conflicting.
That's everything.
The way this is written conflicts with each other.
This was written for Florida Boulevard, period.
I understand.
In
But this
here,
is conflicting.
Only for Florida Boulevard is where that initially applied.
So I don't know, understand y'all are recommending changes or whatever to the council or to planning. Maybe we can recommend that they throw this in the garbage and start over with a little bit more clear plan, a little more concise, and I don't mean it literally that way, but just so we can get something a little bit more palatable for everyone and distinguish the corridors that we've talked about. And we do know what most of our corridors are, but Walker South, as an example, from 190 to 16 is 13, 14 miles long. They're not 4-lane in that road in my lifetime. Probably not in anybody's lifetime in this room. But they will do it to Buddy Ellis. And I would say to Joe May is realistic, which is about 2.5 miles south of the interstate. So
It's
maybe
barely
we do
18
that
feet
corridor,
wide.
like a 3-mile section where you got the hospital, bought a bunch of property, you did a bunch of things there that you could set some widening guidelines. But then further down from Joe May South, maybe you don't do all that. Maybe you narrow it down to 100 feet. Right now, it's about 80 feet. So you increase it 60 feet, according to this, 62 feet, that's a lot, grabbing a lot of land on each side. So maybe you don't go so far. But just idea.
But you're right about 3 miles south, because the economic corridor runs basically from the Canadian National Railroad to the north, 3 miles south, about 12. The map is on the wall if anybody wants to look at it, where the economic corridor is at, and that would be about Joe May Road.
Yeah, that's right.
Here.
So, but with this being conflicting and I mean, you could end up with a lot of lawsuits with this, the way this verbiage is, and spend a whole lot of money on both sides trying to figure out who's right and who's wrong. At the end, it's just a bunch of taxpayer money going down the drain. So, thank you.
Okay, Melissa.
Can you
Melissa
state your name and your
Jones.
address?
3278338 Mangum Chapel Road. I'm basically I spoke at the council on this, on your rural landowners that stand to lose. Somebody that already has pipelines through our property and everything else. What you do when you pass an ordinance on these state roads that we can't mandate anyway, I don't know, does anybody know, I asked Mr. Clemens, is how 16, how they bought that up, that right-of-way up, like to make it a little wider on Highway 16, but the state went in and went on, I think what I'm understanding, went ahead and bought that up, the 4-lane that one day if they wanted to. There's nothing stopping the state from buying up these rural areas like Florida Boulevard all the way to Hammond if they wanted to. I mean, there's nothing stopping them going on and buying that from people. But the minute y'all put an ordinance on these setbacks, that's going to depreciate the fair market value of people's property. And I think, just like I'm going to go back to like I feel like before, it's constantly off the current citizens that live here. So we're rural, I'm a rural landowner. We make up a small percentage of this parish yet, but we're very well needed, We fight to keep, and it's not easy to do, to keep what little bit of land we got, and we started out, it ain't, the grandfather, say like my husband's grandfather on Kane Market, he already give that up. It was a dirt path. He already give that right away up. We already don't build in those areas because we know eventually if they want to come through that, if eminent domain comes through with the state, they're going to take it anyway. There's nothing we can do about it, but at least it allows us to get fair market value current to that day. So passing something now on the books as a parish ordinance that forevermorely deems that property, they may have timber planted on that. Forevermore, you can't do what you want to do to your own property. That depreciates the value. And if you have a large road frontage, it does matter. I mean, Weyerhaeuser may not say anything. They was already selling out some of theirs for tax reasons or whatever. But if you want, we have 60 acres. My husband's family, I don't know how much is on road frontage, but I can tell you a good portion. It was 200 acres on both sides of the road, so they've done their due diligence as far as giving up the initial from a dirt path and fighting to get it there. My husband's grandfather was a councilman, but at some point when you start passing I understand what the master committee, they're trying to do anything to appease the state, but there's nothing stopping the state now. We can't control them anyway. But when the minute y'all go put in place all these setback requirements, y'all must think about how that will ever mortally from that day forward on people that have large, landowners that have large amount of road frontage that probably have already given up, like we've given up on our little parish road. They're going to come back and take, my husband's grandfather owned both sides of the Mangum Chapel at one time, still probably does on a lot of things, but they've already given up property. And it's the same people, a lot of them are still alive, that this is going to impact. And when we pass an ordinance on there, from that, day forward, they will lose the value on that. And then if they get ready to replant their timber, like I grow planted pine timber, it does matter. Why would you spend the money to replant it, not knowing eventually when they're going to do with the, the state. You may never intend to, but who knows? Things change all the time. Y'all be dead and gone. Maybe my kids may have a sewage, one of them sewage or whatever they was trying to disposable place that tries to put in by our property. I can only control what I own. And, I think it's all necessary, but the state can buy up anything on Florida Boulevard they want to. Explain to me how Highway 16 got that allowance for the requirements that they need to 4-lane one day, and it's bought up by the state, and how Florida Boulevard can't seem to manage to get that done to Hammond. I don't.
Where that started was one of our members had talked with the state,
right,
and they said their number one expense for improving state roads in the parish was purchasing buildings that were in the setback area.
Right.
And the intent was, let's start to slow down building too close to state roads so we have the option down the road without spending too much money. It costs too much to build a road in Livingston Parish is what they're telling me.
Okay, but parish-wide, when you pass a parish-wide ordinance, they go up to the setback requirements on ordinances and stuff. To me, you're already saying that land is deemed, this is going to be servitude eventually for something. So that's unusable property. Whether they say, oh, you can do whatever you want to as long as you have control of it. No, you really can't, and it depreciates the value of your property. When you own enough of it, you will understand it does matter, because it forevermore will show a servitude, and that's undeveloped. It may, to some of these people, mean 5 or 6, 10, 20, 100 lots, the way, y'all trying to scale it back, we all are. But I'm just saying, in my area, I'm forevermore, I don't believe in zoning whatsoever. I'm zoned, my lots would have to be, my kids resell my property, they'd have to have 5 acres to one house. You know, that don't benefit us anyway. So if it ever gets to that point, it's not benefiting me whatsoever. It's benefiting the parish. So I just mean, when y'all consider doing these setback requirements and making it across the board, y'all, and especially the state, we can't control them. There's nothing stopped them from 4-lane and Florida Boulevard, not one thing.
Money.
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 No, the right people. It's the right people. You know, if you really, Hammond can get it done. Why is other parishes, other areas you go to that it's gotten done? You got to find out a way to make it priority to somebody. You know, that's all. Get your business owners involved along that roadway and all that. There's some kind of way that you can't tell me all this economic development that ain't you can't force a hand from some direction, some kind of way to help the state out, match funds, whatever it is. You know, but I'm just saying, across the board ordinances, I don't know that I would consider that. I mean, I understand your purpose with state roads, you know, or whatever, but when you do that, you're hurting your large landowners that, you know, how much more we got to give. Y'all have already taken the zoning, put the zoning requirements on us, so we've lost that. Our asset that we have for our kids' future forevermore will be worth less if we never want to sell. But it costs to be in a rural area, and it costs to keep land. It's not cheap. Y'all might have a $500,000 house. I don't have that. You know, we chose to pay for our land and leave that for our kids. But I can't control what's around me. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa.
One last thought, and I'm going to sit down. I'm not going to say nothing else tonight. We need to put a moratorium on all ordinance until the UDC code gets worked out. We got less than 6 months to get this together. I don't think it's went very far. I don't think any more ordinance should be passed until we get that resolved. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Actually, Wade, at this point, I agree with you. When we started this process, we had no hope of hiring the consultants to help us to redo the traffic pattern maps, the population maps, and all the other maps which have to be redone. But since that time, since we began this process, the parish has decided that we're going to do that. And it would probably be in order to wait until we get a little more data.
Say as well, I don't like to give information without having something behind it. So in the state constitution, Louisiana State Constitution, Section 4A, it says every person has the right to acquire, own, control, use, enjoy, protect, and dispose of private property. So I just want to make sure that I read that to everybody so we understand that every person has the right, and a constitutional right. Nothing supersedes that. And when we were talking about, I think Caleb was up here talking about those areas that are high trafficked areas. Those areas, most of those areas that are high trafficked areas is because of public businesses that's come into our state. I'm not saying I'm against it. I shop at a lot of them. But what I'm saying is that you have a very large, intelligent body of people. That's why we're here. That's why we took time out of our day to be here. And I think that in those congested areas, I don't think a person would have a problem if you say, hey, look, we want to come by, we want to meet with you. You see the problems we're having here on Florida Boulevard. You see the problems in Denham Springs. We want to be able to widen this road, but it's on your property. It's your property. So we want your permission to be able to widen the road. And I think that's what's happened. That's what's happened with government in all sectors, is that the government, the servants have forgot that they're servants. And when you come to the master, and the owners, the people are the masters. And when you come to the masters and you say, hey, can we do this? This is for the betterment of the community. I think you have a better response from people, and not just make it a generic, like they're saying, all state roads. That's unnecessary. And you're going to have people like me up here fighting it and doing whatever I need to do to stop it, which it will be stopped, because it's unnecessary. It's unnecessary. Now, if I lived in Denham Springs, in the middle of Denham Springs, I probably would sell out because it's too crowded for me. But if I lived there, I would gladly, if one of you come to me and say, hey, can we widen the roads? Because that's common sense. They need to be widened. But here's the other common sense. Quit allowing the development of subdivisions, quit allowing the development of all these businesses until you have the blessing of the people. Let the people bless it. Let the people say, we bless that you're going to grow Cuban Road. We bless that you're going to have all this. We want to import, we want to put our property so you can have structures. But I've seen too many subdivisions come in my little town in Springfield. Too many subdivisions come in, and we have no road structure for them. And the only way they can do it is to get a permit from the parish.
You see the dichotomy of what you just presented to me? You said a landowner should have absolute control.
Yes.
Unless they're a business.
No, a
Or
business
developer.
doesn't. A public and private is totally different.
A business is private, it's not public.
What's it?
A business is private, it's
No,
not public.
no, it's
Yes.
not.
Yes.
No,
A
it's not.
business 100% is private.
How does a business have an LLC?
It is owned by a private entity.
Does a business have to be approved by the legislator?
No.
Yes, they do.
No.
Yes. Oh, yes, they do.
No.
They have to be approved. They have all the permits and everything they do.
Completely off subject.
We're really getting
So
off track
if you don't
here.
mind, go ahead and have a seat. Thank you very much. And we appreciate everything that you've said, and definitely keep it in consideration.
Yeah.
And we do appreciate it. At this time, does anybody else from the audience have anything to say before we move forward? No? Okay.
If not, I'd like to say something. I was part of developing this. The goal of this committee was to develop something that was consistent with the master plan, which we've spent the last 12 years ignoring in this parish. I'll have y'all know I agree with a lot of what y'all say today. I don't appreciate a lot of the way it's said. If y'all want to have a discussion with me, my goal, my job up here is to get this right, where it works for everybody, or at least as much as possible. And listening to what was said Thursday night and tonight, I agree there are problems with this. This needs to be fixed. I also think that this is a problem that needs to be addressed in the parish, that we need something. We need to deal with setbacks in some way. This probably goes too far and needs to be fixed. So I'll give everybody my cell phone number. You can call me and tell me what you see wrong with this, and I'll be glad to look at it with you and work on it. So, like I said, my job here is to make sure that we do this right and that we have something that works for the people of this parish. I'm not getting paid to sit here. I'm here because I want to help the parish out and I want to move us forward.
I guess what I'm saying, we're fighting a lawsuit over development that went against everything that we had set in place already. So nothing that we have is solid. We had a master plan that goes totally against it. Not one person. Mr. Burns, I respect him tremendously, and I understand I think he's a person that sticks to something when he give him a task, he does it. But it helped not Deer Run subdivision whatsoever, and automatically that could have come into place. Somebody could have advocated for them to stop this, and we wouldn't have these lawsuits. So we're looking for it. Yeah, we're looking for infrastructure. We're looking for economic development. We're looking for all of it. But let's go on and put it out there. We're trying to stop overdevelopment because we hadn't found one way, or anybody with the testicular fortitude, to stand up and say, we don't want it. It's against our health. We need to work on proving it's against health and safety, and wherefore write more laws that I'm agreeing with these people. I'm anti every government in every way on a lot of things. But I mean, we're leaning on them for protection, and you know what our forefathers taught us, that's a setup for failure. So we know that this is just a plan, and then we're going to try to get some structure, because there is none here. But I mean, by the same token, I commend all of y'all for doing that. I don't want you to think I'm being a naysayer. I went along with a lot of things trying to do the zoning and ordinance requirements that I'd have never thought I would have, out of protection for small rural areas that somebody just didn't stop and say, hey, this don't even make good sense, But at some point, we can legislate ourselves to get to death, and we're still going to wind up with the same results, because they're going to come back smarter, or in an army, and wait for y'all to leave, us to leave, and it's going to be a whole nother day, So, but it's going to still hurt the people that live here. We're going to have to reap the benefits from it, and the landowners especially.
Ronald Reagan once said that the scariest thing in the world was people at the door saying, we're from the government, we're here to help.
That's right.
Been there. I agree with it.
So, a few things to say here. First of all, there were 3 ordinance revisions that Mr. Goff presented to my one, and his revisions were in green. This is one of those, and the one that we spoke about and presented, let me just simplify this. It was to be in total compliance with the master plan, 142-foot setbacks parish-wide on state and federal highways and roads, not including Interstate 12. So that made Florida Boulevard go to 142-foot setback. And he found a fatal flaw in my ordinance introduction, and that was I did not include the 25-foot setbacks for commercial, residential, industrial, and there's another one in there. I just can't remember. It's just across the board, 25-foot setback. So that would negate the confusing verbiage of the part where it says 21 feet side yard and 41-foot front yard. And also, I just want to thank you so much for bringing this here. The council did send it back so that the people could come and have the discussion. Many of the people were here at that council meeting. I don't see any reason for things to be heated at all. We want to have the discussion. It starts here for compliance with the master plan. And, you know, it's not a taking. It's not a taking. The state will take it. The parish cannot take it. They can put fruit stands, tomato stands, driveways, fences. Scott, what do you? Your signs. You can put all of those are removable. So it's not a taking. We're saying you can't put a permanent dwelling here. I'm glad that it's back here. I know that in the past, and I have the paperwork from DOTD, they actually recommended 240-foot setbacks on state roads parish-wide. And we didn't go that radical with it, and we don't want to go that radical with it on all across the board. We do want to have the discussion with the public. Thank you for being here. Thank you for putting this on your agenda. Thank you for being willing to serve the public. And I know I can't speak to the public behind me, but we do have a lot coming. You will be invited to give your input. Nobody's trying to take anything from anyone, but we do have to start having this discussion to protect the future, to protect our children in Livingston Parish. Does anybody have any questions for me in regard to this?
I got one comment. You said a while ago that DOTD recommended 200-something feet. That's in rural areas.
Okay.
Like if you're going from Watson North to Pine Grove, you'll see it's really, really wide. That's rural.
Mm-hmm.
But we're all talking about urban.
Yeah. And I know that you, Mr. Burns, I'm not trying to make it personal, so I hope that you don't take it that way, but you've been through this with your own property, and you're still trying to do the best thing for the future of Livingston Parish, and I do thank you for that. I'm
trying to prevent this from happening to me again, where DOTD does not have to buy my building. I'm calling the artillery down on myself to stop you, the taxpayer, from buying my building.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. If anybody else has any questions, please ask. Nobody's trying to take anything from anyone. We serve the public, as do you. Thank you.
Ms. Sanford, could I ask a question? One thing that the master plan does talk about is typical arterial ways. And one thing I'm seeing here is that we really haven't done a good job identifying where we expect growth in the last dozen years. And the observation I have, since we have a new consultant coming in, could we sit on this until we get new traffic plans? When this was first proposed, we didn't have any hope of having new traffic studies done. And now we're busy actively encouraging those bids to come to us.
Okay.
So it would make sense, I would think, to include the new traffic studies.
Sure. Yeah, I agree with you on that.
Make it easier to face everybody while we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah, let's bring them in. I mean, we've got things coming through the
It should be
channels
a
right
long
now.
period of time at this point.
We do have a little bit of an urgent, I guess, situation with setbacks in areas that have rapid growth. And what's happened is, I think the commercial has figured out a loophole.
I'm sorry, ladies in the back, we're going to need y'all to either quiet down or go outside and talk. Thank you.
And so I don't want to get into it because I don't want to give anybody any ideas, but that was the urgency of it, to address that and then go back and tweak it. And one of the things in this ordinance was this was moved, and maybe you can correct me here. It was moved to a section that is motor vehicles and traffic. Well, the developers can't see that. It was like, why did it go there? They need to be able to see that so they know what the setbacks are and they know what the name, how to do this.
I don't know how that happened.
Yeah. That was confusing, and that was part of, okay, we got to get this in front of them. We've got to get it. And so the section was created, 121 was created to build on, to tweak, to amend, and I know some people say, yeah, well, you said you were going to amend it. I've said that at the state capitol and other places many times. I believe that you were going to amend it, and then you didn't go back and amend it. Thanks. Well, but we have this big, huge thing happening in Livingston Parish where we actually are going to address this the very best that we can to serve the people in the best way.
Questions here, and in the update of the master plan, I understand we're asking consultants to update, create the zoning maps and update the master plan. Is one to do a traffic study in the whole parish? Is that part of the direction going out to people that are going to update the master plan, to do a parish-wide traffic study of where the choke points is?
What is the current master plan? How does the current master plan address that?
I don't know in particular, but things have changed since 2013.
I do know that you will
11
be
years. So choke points now, the demographics of the parish have changed with all the subdivisions and the shopping centers. It has changed anyway. So we need a parish-wide traffic study. Where is the choke point? Where is the usage at? They can go out and put those little black rubber hoses on the road and tell you what the traffic is, every road in this parish. Scott Jones has that information on, sent it to me. We looked at Florida Boulevard and I think Range Avenue. A study needs to be done through the whole parish, and it needs to be done with an update of the master.
Okay. Noted.
You might ask for that.
Noted.
And,
maybe could y'all make a recommendation on that?
Sure.
And tack it on to things that are already in play in regards to the master plan? That may very well be a part of.
but we can make it part of.
I would think it would be. I mean, it is, the existing master plan does have some traffic flow diagrams, and also they must have done a traffic study. I would certainly say that we should ask for that, and that should be part of the update, or new master plan, however they do it. I think that's critical information. I don't think we can have a master plan without that.
Like I say, initially, we didn't have any hope of having a new study done this year, really. So once we have the opportunity to hire the new consultant, that changes things somewhat.
A new planner. And I will say, I have seen planning at work in other parishes, and it really took me by surprise. There were maps, big public gathering, maps set up in different areas of whatever meeting place they were at with different color dots. People were smiling. They really were smiling. They were happy to provide input. I was pretty amazed by it. So that is to come. That is coming. Imagine us smiling.
I think a lot of the angst that we've seen is because we have been totally unpredictable in this parish. What's going to happen? One day this is going to happen. The next day that's going to happen. You never know. And I remember speaking with a developer here at the council meeting recently, and he said, developers don't care. They just want to have the same set of rules. They want to know what the rules are and they can play. So really what we have here today is private citizens. It's not the developers that are kicking, it's private citizens. And to tell you the truth, I have a tendency to listen to them a little bit more, you know, the homeowners.
I'm glad, I'm grateful they're here. I'm glad they're showing up to give us input on it. We need it. We need you guys and gals behind me. And you up there, thank you for what you do.
Quick. John Mangus, Livingston Parish Council District 6, 13065 Catahoula Drive, Denham Springs. First of all, I applaud all of you for doing that. And you're absolutely right. As a citizen, we don't always know what's coming and what's going to happen, but planning and master planning, you guys do. You have the heads up. We absolutely do appreciate the citizens' response. Just speaking with Mr. Jones and all that, when I read over this ordinance before, when it was supposed to be introduced at the last meeting, I looked at other states and how they handle it. Texas is a really good example. They have service roads, like a great deal of service roads. And I know it's expensive to build that, but they don't have businesses right on state highways. And that takes out most of your problem. And we actually do have roads that could be service roads in Livingston Parish. We got a Rushing Road, and then also, I forget the name of the road that runs right in front of Front Door Baptist Church and that dealership there. I mean, those are roads that we could absolutely utilize. So my whole point is master planning. We definitely need to update it, the master plan, and try to identify the growth corridors, because just a blanket 141 feet, all state roads, what about like 22, you know, where the camps and stuff are?
No.
That's a state road, though.
We don't need to do that.
That is a state road.
Gerald, I got a question, and you've probably been on here longer than anybody. Do we have an updated parish map of state highways, what the existing right-of-way is? Like 444, 22?
No, we've had quite a few meetings with local engineers. We had one about a month ago. You and I went down and talked to Mr. Mullins at Macklin Taylor, and the process is they don't know. They have to request that information from DOTD or go out to Hammond and look at their map. That's what, Ms. Cooley, that come out of that meeting. So they have access to it. But there is no.
So there is none in the master plan, because I looked through it a bunch, I couldn't find it.
Yeah, I didn't see it either.
I mean, we have highway, property on 444, state highway, and there's a concrete marker that's on the side of the road in the yard, in my son's yard. And I'm guessing that's where the servitude is.
Yes, it is. That was done back in the 1950s.
And that's right where the power line, I mean, typically the power line should be where the servitude is. I mean, it should be in the servitude, correct?
Power line poles are generally...
Theoretically, the power lines, the telephone boxes and everything like that.
Power lines are going to be right inside the DOTD right-of-way. The concrete pylons is the actual right-of-way, both sides of the road. A lot of them are missing.
Correct.
Dozers knocked them down over the years, but there are still a lot out there.
It should be all the same on every state highway in the parish, the distance, or not?
They're different.
Whatever they do.
Yeah, they are different.
They're different.
They're different.
Yeah,
and I don't know if
that's part
making
of
them
the
uniform
problem.
would really help, because every state road is different.
It's different.
Right. And another thing to think about is the state has and I don't know the exact figures, but the state can only have so many miles of state road. So if they want to, let's say they want to take Joe May, I'm not saying they do, but they want to take Joe May and make it into a state road, make it 4-lane. Well, they would have to shed so many, if that's a 4-mile road, they would have to shed 4 miles somewhere else. So we really need to look at as a parish if there are some state roads that we want to acquire, because there is a program where the state will come and they have to make it, repave it, make sure the bridges are right before they get rid of it. And then another thing too is there are some roads that can be private. I mean, there are residents that want to put gates up, that want to have a private road. You know, maybe we don't need to own so many miles of roads. So I think that's all your purview. And I applaud you for what you're doing on that. You know, keep the ideas coming. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mangus.
We've taken quite a bit of time here on this one issue tonight. I'm going to close the public hearing at this point. Do I have a motion from anyone? How
I'll
to
make one
proceed?
comment before you do that. I had an idea I thought we'd bring up, and I've talked to 3 or 4 councilmen about it. Instead of when we rewrite the ordinance, instead of doing all state highways, the master plan committee over the last 3 or 4 years has come up with Exhibit A with a lot of roads. Most of them is in the economic corridor. And we met with every mayor, every politician, the parish president, anybody that was influential in this parish, and we come up with that road list, and it's basically in the economic corridor. Last meeting, we added 3 more roads: a Parish Road, Buddy Ellis Road, New Bridge across the Emmett River, Watson, and 4 lane in Watson, from 16 from Watson to the Oak Hill subdivision. I would recommend that we only concentrate on those roads, on any building line setback, and get away from the rest of the parish. We're not going to 4-lane Bend Road in Watson. We're just not. So, in a lot of the roads, I'm recommending, if this is a recommendation and the council approves all this, this is the only thing that we should concentrate on. Nothing else.
I have a question.
Be thinking about that.
Where can I see the Exhibit A?
Right here.
No, I mean, is it in the master plan, or is it in the ordinance, or is this
no,
Gerald Burns's private,
we're going to
personal
ask it
piece of
to be
paper?
put in the master plan, but it hadn't been done yet.
How long have you had that?
Well, we started on this about 3 years ago.
And it hasn't made it yet? So why is it making it, why are you trying to push it right now?
I'm not
If
trying,
we're waiting on a whole new master plan?
I'm not trying to push it right now. I'm telling you, if we're going to rewrite the ordinance, consider only doing Exhibit A, roads that everybody's agreed on, and still.
Okay, never mind.
Okay.
I just don't know who
Let's-
everybody agreed on.
We spent quite a bit of time on this issue tonight.
Well, everybody in the every mayor in the economic corridor, we sat down with them, the tourist director, all the state senators and representatives, all the
Does not
Close it
contain
off.
any municipality in Livingston Parish.
Close it
period.
off, sir.
It
We're
does not even pertain to Walker.
Sir, we're through. And I'd like to close it here for discussion. Is there a motion?
I think we have significant work doing this, so I move that we table this until we determine a path forward on it.
I second that.
Okay, we have a vote?
And then who was the second?
I second.
Burns? Okay. And then do I need a vote? Do we need a?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Right. All in favor, Mr. Sandiford?
Yes.
Mr. Coley Johnson?
Yes.
Myself, Sabrina Petrie, yes. Mr. Gerald Burns?
Yes.
Mr. Merrill Hess?
Yes.
Mr. Brian Clemens?
Yes.
Mr. Steve Larkey?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll move on with the agenda, the new business. One thing I wanted to speak about tonight was the purpose of the Master Plan Review Committee. What we're doing is reviewing the master plan and making recommendations to either the council or the planning commission as is appropriate. In the past 11 years, the parish has made very little progress in implementing anything in the master plan at all. And the intent when we addressed the setbacks was to start having the parish look at the master plan and start to implement some of the components. Since that began, we've had the opportunity to start to hire new consultants. So we're going to be getting more information. There's no doubt about it. More traffic studies, more population studies, more economic studies. We want to have the up-to-date information. There will be more public hearings, town hall hearings. It's going to entail a lot. To the best of my knowledge, the RFQs have been let out, and we should begin to score the bids next week. So it's moving rather quickly. But it probably is a little quick to start implementing things, seeing that we're getting new consultant. But either rate, the intent of this committee is strictly to review the master plan. We're not trying to write it. That is the purview of the Planning and Zoning Commission. So we can make recommendations to Planning and Zoning, or for that matter, recommendations to the council, but it's just what we think. We're not writing laws. With that in mind, let's go down to new business also, 7B. Sabrina has done some work on some population maps.
Okay, so I gave each of y'all the sheet right here. Now, sorry it's not in color, but on that chart, the one that's not highlighted, that was already in the master plan. So if you notice, it goes from 1900s all the way to the 2000s. 2010 and 2020, I added in. There is a formula that was used on the table that I have access to. There's a drop-down box that gives me, I'm sorry, not that one, but the 2010 and 2020, those are information that's pulled from the U.S. Census. So it's accurate information, and the reason for influence is urban to suburban flight. And so if you look on the right-hand side, there's a bar graph that shows the Livingston Parish growth. I wanted to bring that to the commission to see if we can go ahead and add that into the master plan. To me, my thought is the faster we edit this and have as much information as possible, the faster we can get it done. And I know we're waiting for the studies for drainage and sewage, but this right here is information that's right in front of us on the internet, on the U.S. Census. So this first page would be update for page 9, table 1. The second graph was just an addition to page 9 to show a graph. That second page is a projection. So those highlighted areas, that's information that was pulled from the U.S. Census. 2030, 2040, and 2050 obviously is not pulled from the internet because it hasn't happened yet, but there's a formula that I put in place to accumulate those numbers. And so if you notice, though, at the very bottom, it says based on a 1.83 annual increase, that's without any additional factors. That's saying that there's not any kind of emergency or anything that's bringing people in or bringing people out. So it was to maintain a consistent flow. That's what it would look like as far as the projection would go. And then that's the graph that would go along with it. And that would, I thought that would be helpful to, I think that's also page 9, table 1. In the master plan. And then that last piece would replace page 12, and that is a parish comparison between Livingston Parish, East Baton Rouge, and Ascension. And if you look on page 12, that's actually inaccurate on the master plan because they have that Livingston Parish has a higher population than East Baton Rouge at that time. That's not true. And so this is adjusted to show it, to reflect it properly. For page 12.
Table 2?
For page 3 on page.
Yeah. Well, that's table 2. And if we made this recommendation to Planning and Zoning for them to replace these maps, that information would be available to the consultants when they begin their work.
So this is just a recommendation to move this forward to bring this to the Planning Commission. Would anybody like to motion it?
I like it. Do we have a motion?
I'll move
To
send this to planning and zoning for.
We have a second? Second. Have a vote. You want to just do it by show of hands? Okay, all voting for to send this to Planning and Zoning?
Aye.
Seems to be unanimous. We will forward this to Planning and Zoning Commission.
Thank you.
Thank you for the work. It was well done.
Very good. I love
Almost
this
like
kind
you're a
of
teacher or something.
I don't know.
The next item on the agenda, discussion of transportation maps. I think we'll wait and let consultants do that, be my view. Are there any other areas of the master plan that we want to start taking a look at? Everybody just grab a section if you want to.
I think starting next month, start looking sewer. Road years and the sewer is the most important.
Subject that's near and dear to my heart. I've spent most of my life building sewer plants. So.
Oh, well, I'll fit right in.
Well, do we have any plan on how to get that done? You want to, how we're going to
Yeah, I
gather
need somebody to
information?
ride with me and count houses.
I'm out.
Anybody don't have anything to do starting next week.
Would that fall in line with other
I work-
utilities like
I
water?
work Joe
Gas.
Biden's hours, so,
Yeah, I
You better hurry and get home because you got 30 minutes.
I think we ought to gather some information.
all the information we can get on.
Could we get some information in the next month on the sewage treatment plant, municipalities treatment plants that we have in the parish? Anybody want to gather that information?
The Livingston Parish Sewer District, was going to come and speak to us several months back, but go that route. I was thinking more or less we need sewer in certain areas. Municipalities basically covered with sewer. Outside in the parish is not. Where I was.
Part of the master plan was to gather all of the individual systems and have a summit.
Yeah, I was going to say, we have to, I believe, that we have to, as a parish, be working towards parish-wide sewer. That's got to be the ultimate goal, because that's a decades-long process, and that, I think, should be included in the master plan update.
Well, is that going to be left to us or somebody that's updating the master?
I would need to conduct further studies.
Yeah, I mean, from what I understand, they're going to expect us to work with the firm for the public input process and all, so.
I know Mr. Jerome had emphasized that it would be a parallel process with the, but the three main things he wants to emphasize with master plan is just a parallel process where we're doing all of it,
Ordinances, planning and zoning, master plan. They were all going to operate parallel paths. Thing is, we have a moratorium in place for the rest of the year, and they're going to try to get us to the end zone, if you will, all at the same time with these three components. And it's kind of ambitious, but
I was about to say, anybody want to lay any money on that?
I applaud the ambition because we've been sitting on our hands for so long. For us, what we do is we review what's in the master plan and recommend tweak. We're the living part of the living document, if you will. But there's some places in here that aren't clear, things that we could clean up now and help them to make it a little bit less verbose, if you will. Zach Thomason, who's not able to be here tonight, is already working on weeding through this document and finding everywhere that there is a recommendation, because they're sprinkled throughout the document. And so he's collating all the recommendations to the parish and get them in just 1 or 2 pages, and that'll be an addendum that we would recommend to the planning and zoning. But it would be helpful, anybody that sees a section that we could clarify, reduce the verbiage, if you will, things like that.
And I do have the first 3 pages of an editation of it, as far as removing some things and adding, because some of it just wasn't important. It was more opinion-based. So just sticking to the fact that I can bring to the next meeting. I mean, it's only like 3 or 4 pages.
I'm working on a few things myself. But I'd like to just leave everybody with a bug in their ear that if you could take any section of the master plan that catches your eye and it means something to you in particular, that you think that you could make it a little less verbose or a little more concise, but not changing necessarily, but just whittling it down a little bit. And I think it would be helpful if we started that process.
That's our homework assignment between now and the next
There
meeting.
you go.
Let me say one thing. My person. You got one? I want to ask the question why they did. I'd like that.
I think it's a personal matter.
I do want to ask.
And-
Can I ask?
And I would ask that we don't, just don't get personal.
Personal matter, Mr. Burns.
Why?
You know me.
Why would you do that?
It's not a personal matter. It's to point out that you got 3 times the amount that the property was worth, but y'all trying to make it to where when they appraise our properties on the state highway, they'll be worth. That's all I was pointing out. And you do have a map attached to there showing how the right-of-ways are all messed up. And what I didn't appreciate, that this like to have got slipped through the council and nobody out in the world knew about it. I asked to see the ordinance 3 different times by 3 different people, and I finally got my hands on
But
it.
what was your purpose to do this?
To show that you got the max amount for your property.
What? Okay, so
But if you make our property useless, we don't get the same opportunity that you've got.
they widened Cuban Road. That's why I sold my property. I didn't.
You're widening Jubilee Road is why you
DOTD
sold your property. That's the same argument that we all had. That's what we're trying to get up
took my property, sir.
Sir?
They took my property. I didn't sell it to them.
Excuse
Okay,
me,
I'm going to
gentlemen.
interject
Excuse
just
me,
because this is
gentlemen.
off.
That
Whoa,
was
stop,
pretty damn
stop,
dirty.
stop.
Okay?
This is not on the
Mr. Gerald,
agenda.
give me a second.
Sir, this is not on the agenda,
was pretty
and this is very personal, so I would really appreciate it if you just keep it separate. I am going to say that
Why did it take so long to get ordinance to work?
It wasn't in our committee. It wasn't here.
I think that's a great question, and I say that because as a citizen, I like to make sure that I'm updated on everything too. And I like to go to, I think it's amazing that you guys are here. You stand up for what you believe in, and I think that's great. However, you need to also make sure you do it the right way. So you have to remember, this is a committee, this is a board, this is citizens. So when you come to suggest things, not out of anger, but share what you think, like share what you... I understand, trust me, because I was at a council meeting yesterday and I agree. I'm sorry, I'm still talking, so please be respectful. So my point is, when you come to these meetings, make sure that you're respectful in it. And I understand the passion, trust me, because I was at a council meeting yesterday and I had full passion for what I stood for. And I had the facts, and we're here because we want to know what you believe. We want to know what your thoughts are. And so what we're trying to push for this committee is to hear your thoughts. So every single person that spoke today, believe it or not, we wrote it down. We wrote down your name, we wrote down your address, we wrote down what you feel and what you're strong about with your opinion, and we are taking that in consideration. This committee is not to make an ordinance, it's for suggestions.
Okay, the council took y'all's recommendation, and I was told by a council person that the ordinance or the master plan committee is the one that presented this.
No.
Apparently, the council did not read this. I sent emails out to each and every council and got replies. Now, my thing is, it should have been published to where everybody could see it, because we talked about the economic corridor, and we all know it's 190 Juban Road and all of that. But if we did not see in there that this was for all state roads in Livingston Parish, it would have slipped right through. Everybody would have voted for it, and nobody knew to the last second that we had lost everything that we have invested in our properties. That's what I have a problem with. And then Miss Sandy Till gets up here. She only reads the first 2 pages of the ordinance. She doesn't read the entire thing. It was like pulling teeth to try to figure out what y'all was even trying to pass, and then the math didn't even match. The homework was not done. This was a rush deal, and I feel that we're just trying to pass ordinance to get ordinance underneath our belts.
Well,
I think it's very important for you to share it, because honestly, that's what this is here for, to make sure we hear your thoughts, to make sure that everything you say is in consideration. So moving forward, with all of everything that you said, we have written down, and like we all agreed with everything that y'all said. So what you did was not in vain. However, the way that you come off needs to be more respectful. Not all the time. Not all the time.
We sat in here on public record, video is on the website where we hashed out this ordinance. We sent it to the ordinance committee. They had a public meeting where they talked about it and discussed it. Then it went to the council. So I don't think it was hidden. And I would have been glad to give you a copy if you'd asked me about it.
Wait, if I may.
But I talked to 3 councilmen and asked them,
If
Wait,
they
if-
don't read it, I can't control that. I'm telling you the process that we went through from this committee. We sent it to, we did it. The video's still up there. You can go back and watch when we crafted this. And from there, it went to ordinance committee, and then it went to the full council. If the rest of the council didn't read it, then, that's.
Well,
I
you and
can't
I
speak
served
about
together on Randy Delat's transition team. We did well working together. And I understand where you're coming from, and I know you know I have a story too, what the parish was doing me. That's what got me into this politics. You know I don't have evil intention here. But I'd like to say this. The approach tonight with the information on one particular member of this body, the perception there is that it was inappropriate. And I would ask that you not focus on individual committee members. Again, we're trying to do the right thing, okay? If you disagree, disagree. But don't single somebody out and try to turn their life bare and say, I want this guy hammered.
I felt that we're deceived by your organization here.
We had no intent to deceive.
I know y'all had no intent, but it felt like we were deceived because Burns has always talked about the corridor creating business. We were deceived on this side that it was going to be our parish road. And nobody brought it up. Nobody knew about it.
It needed tweaking. It needed tweaking.
And
That's
that
why
was
you have
done
public
in
hearings.
that was done in this chamber on video. Video is still up there.
Through the ordinance committee and to the council to be voted on without anybody proofreading all of it.
Why didn't you call me and talk to me personally about
Mr.
this?
Burns, you're hard to talk to. You ask your question,
Well,
you're
let's-
going on.
You got my number, sir.
Let's talk about tomorrow, where we're going forward, okay? We're trying to make the best suggestions we can. We're listening to you. Trust me, we're listening. So, but in the future, let's try to work together and not focus on individuals, okay?
And I received a call from any of y'all.
I didn't know it was an issue until you were at the council meeting, and I sat in the audience and I was texting people at the council saying they're making good points.
On 2 different sites.
I won't go on Facebook.
Now wait, we've got 170,000 members of this
Y'all
community.
got my numbers too. Nobody reached out to me.
Wait, there's 170,000 people in this parish. Which ones am I going to call?
You made a comment.
That's why we have public hearings. You're supposed to come forward.
You made a comment on Facebook. Why didn't you pick up the phone and call me? You gonna call me out about not trying to talk to y'all? You did not reach out to me.
I didn't say anything about not trying to talk to us. I said something about the way it was approached tonight.
But you got to do certain things to make it happen.
I don't.
I will.
I didn't appreciate it tonight.
You should have had the ordinance transparency, and that's what everybody ran on in this parish.
There were 3 public hearings on this ordinance.
All I was talking about was the delivery tonight, okay? I understand the transparency.
Holler this stuff and holler this stuff, and I work with DOTD also.
That's another personal attack.
I'm
man.
just
You
talking
got
about
it.
the delivery, sir.
Just moving forward, I
Unbelievable.
will say, if you do want to stay informed with it, when you go to the website, go under minutes and you can see where it's going to be on there. So if you're
Let's,
trying to stay informed with it, that's where you can go.
Let's look for another motion right now. Has anybody got one for me?
I will motion to adjourn.
Second, show of hands. Everybody run the door as fast as you can.